A lot of
Mm.
infighting has happened because of it. It's always like trans people who don't experience the need for a xenogender. Some of them can look back at xenogenders and be like, "You're the reason why no one takes us seriously." So instead of
Yeah.
everyone being a community, it's just like, "Oh, you're taking the piss. You're not really in with the activism, not realizing that
Hmm.
these are radical things that are happening."
Hello and welcome to the 50 Shades of Gender podcast. We get curious about all things gender, sex, and sexuality, as well as relationships, feminism, the inclusive kind, mental health and kink, and all that makes us humans unique and diverse. From body positivity to body dysmorphia, it's all welcome here. If you like what we do and want to make a contribution, you can become a patron on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/50 Shades of Gender or buy us a coffee. Links are on the website. Now, join us on a journey of inclusion, acceptance, and respect. I'm your host, Esther Lemons. I am a cis queer woman, and my pronouns are she and her. In this episode, I have a conversation with Grayson, a furry and budding artist. Grayson is a trans man, but identifies with wolfgender, which is a xenogender. Grayson uses he, him, himself, as well as wolfself pronouns. Find out what that means to Grayson in this episode. We also talk about discovering your identity through playing someone else, separating gender from male, female, man, woman, and masculine, feminine, how queer identities are a lot of work, self-medicating with testosterone, respecting artistry and artists by paying them well, and how gender journeys are a great way to get to know yourself deeper. To clarify some terminology that is used in the episode, being on T means being on testosterone, and a fursona is a furry's character or alter ego. It was recorded on the 7th of August 2021. Now let's get into the episode. Hello and welcome. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Grayson, and I'm 25 years old, and I'm in the south of England right now.
Hello there. And hello down there. Um, yeah. So, yeah, tell me a bit about your gender experience because you have given me some interesting labels. So, far away.
Yeah, so basically I am a trans guy, but I identify with something called wolfgender, which is a xenogender, which is something that's kind of a newfangled thing, not in probably the grand scheme of all human history, but definitely
Mm.
more recognized online now, as most gender things are at the moment, I think. So yeah, so the journey has been that I found the word transgender when I was 15 years old online, and it's kind of why I always advocate for online having a lot of good resources, not just for trans people but for queer people in general, because a lot of our community is online now.
Mm.
Especially with COVID, you couldn't see each other, couldn't have that support system, so a lot of online stuff you do have to find your communities, but once you're there, I think I've lived there pretty much now. I'm very online. But after the age of 15, 18 is kind of when I hit my stride with trying to make moves towards becoming who I wanted to be. So
Mm.
that's when I bought my first binder, which was a £5 one off Amazon, which I do not recommend.
Mm.
Please save your ribs and go for someone like JC2B or something like that. Underworks, fully
Mm.
recommend. And then I cut my hair short. So the story of me cutting my hair short is that my parents and kind of outer people, like, I'd come from a very small town in South Wales, so it
Mm.
was very close. So everyone kind of saw me as the unique and independent and different person. I think a lot of us can identify with that. But
Mm.
so like without ever imagining myself as too much of a different gender at that point when I was 17ish, I understood the word. It was whether that was something in reality at that point. I just felt the way I felt from childhood. So I unconsciously went to prom in a suit. That's just how I was. I just wore t-shirt and jeans. That's how I was. The last time I wore a dress was when I was 8 and I was going off to my drama club. My mum just kind of held this pink dress in front of me and said, "This is the last time I want you to wear a dress. Just this one time, and you'll never have to wear a dress ever again."
Wow.
And
Yeah.
and like since then, she has kept her promise, and I have not worn a dress since.
Wow. Were you like, okay, deal?
Yeah, literally, it was
Yeah.
just like, I believe you this one time I will do it once for you. Yeah, luckily, so that's ingrained in my memory.
I bet.
And yeah, so I cut my hair short, and it was just my mum thought it was just one of those more different things I wanted, like a pixie cut. Girls have
Mm.
short hair,
Yeah.
so they kind of thought it was different.
Hmm.
So I was allowed to, which is different because otherwise I wasn't allowed really to shop in the men's section or do that sort of thing. It was just this
Mm.
was okay for some reason. I think it's because I really idolized the artist Pink, the kind of
Yeah.
pop punk
Hmm.
at that time. So she thought I was kind of going for that look, which is true because I wanted to bleach my hair at the same time.
Yeah.
So it looked very different in my very small town. And this
Mm.
poor hairdresser, we were out shopping in England, and I was like, "Mum, I want my hair cut now," and she's like, okay." So
Wow.
we went into a random hairdresser's and just told the poor girl there, cut it all off, and she was like, "Oh my god."
Wow. Yeah.
So this poor girl had to chop my hair off, and she left it a bit longer than I wanted to, but I think she wanted that safety net of like, what if I hate it?
Hmm.
What if I don't want to do that ever again? But I'm endlessly grateful for her to try.
Hmm.
That was great.
Yeah. So how long ago was that? Was
Oh
that
god. When I was 17, so
okay?
quite a while now, and just before I went
Hmm.
into sixth form. Sixth form was definitely like a turning point for me, I think,
Hmm.
because in sixth form you get away from the normal school uniform and you have to wear like a suit from where I was studying.
All right.
Um, so you had to kind of, yeah, it was very smart. You have to have the tie, you have to have a smart shirt on, well, otherwise you just wear a polo shirt and a jumper. So I actually got to wear clothes that I wanted to wear. Like I had the cool shirt, I had the tie, I had a blazer. I wore my Doc Martens and my skinny jeans, my skinny black jeans at the
Mhm.
same time.
Yeah.
A lot of gender euphoria there. Yeah, really
Nice.
enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Um,
Amazing.
yeah, and then going off to university afterwards was even more of a journey after that.
Mm. Yeah, I had a conversation recently with some students in uni,
Mm.
all lovely queer people, and
Oh,
yeah, they were talking about how great it's kind of a fresh start, and you just get to
yes.
reinvent yourself almost, you know?
Literally, yeah. So
Yeah.
I decided to go by a new name. I decided to go by my new gender, my new adopted gender. And yeah, it was getting away from a small town and coming to a bigger town where there is a queer community and there is people who look like you on the street. It's definitely a massive eye opener.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
university is great for identity, I think.
Yeah, yeah, sounds it.
Mm,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like I was like, not that I've got a gender journey necessarily in the
Mm.
same way. I don't really know what that even means anymore. But like, yeah, I feel like I've been, I don't know, school. I think I wasn't even, or university even. I feel like I wasn't really self-aware enough to even think about a lot of
Yeah,
that stuff, to be honest. Whereas I think
yeah,
that kids nowadays are a bit more savvy in that way.
definitely.
Makes me sound old, but never mind. Yeah. So tell me more about xenogender. What does
Okay.
that mean to you?
So it was quite recent to me, and I think it's quite recent for a lot of people. I
Mm.
saw that the term was coined this decade, I think.
Right.
So really quite recent. And so xenogender is kind of a non-binary sort of thing. I would put it as, where you don't identify with masculine and feminine, you don't identify with male female, you don't identify with kind of the traditional sense of what gender is.
Mhm.
I think it's very much a placeholder for the phrase, for the lack of a better word.
Mm.
So, for example, my xenogender, which is wolf gender, my pronouns are wolf. So I do he, him, but wolf,
Mhm.
wolves, and wolf self.
Wow.
Yeah. So for me, my gender and xenogender is very, very subjective. I can't speak for everyone, but you have kind of these little clusters of communities around a certain gender, I think.
Mhm.
So wolf gender is very much like, I'm fiercely loyal. I'm a very good team member. I could be misunderstood sometimes. I could be seen more as aggressive or like whatever than I really am, which is very in line with wolves themselves. And wolves have always like given me a lot of joy, especially through my childhood. I have a lot of wolf iconography in my flat. It just makes me happy to see them. I love learning about them,
Mm.
and it's ironic actually that I had a Dungeons and Dragons character, and I think you can explore a lot about your own identity by playing someone else. So I had a Dungeons and Dragons character called Wolf. So he was like a werewolf sort of thing.
Yeah.
Could turn into a wolf, and so being called Wolf and stuff, being referred to as Wolf, that was just like it was a surprising gender euphoria.
How interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it was just like, oh, okay. And then I could go off and explore those feelings. And the gender euphoria comes from being associated with something that is something that I really enjoy and I really want to emulate. So being kind of recognized as something that nice and cool in my own kind of world is really kind of confidence boosting, and the gender euphoria is kind of all those emotions, which is fantastic. So that's usually what happens with everybody else. Like there could be random things like duck gender, and maybe you really love the way that they're so cute and little, and you want to feel cute and little, and you identify with those kind of descriptors, and you think,
Hmm.
for the lack of a better word, I'm cute, I'm little, I'm fluffy. Let's call it duck gender. Let's go with that. I've seen one of the quite popular ones is plush gender.
Right.
So say you want to be cuddly, you want to be soft, you feel happy, you feel like you want to be there for people. So plush gender is like a really sweet one as well.
Mm.
Definitely, for the lack of a better word, I'm plush gender,
Hmm.
which I think is really sweet. So
Yeah.
I think with xenogenders, it's like a lot of people see it as taking the piss out of gender, which is
Mm.
it can do because it's a revolutionary sort of title at the end of the day. It's very out there. It's very
Yeah.
anarchist.
Is that when people say, "Oh yeah, I identify as an attack helicopter," and do you get all that bullshit? Yeah.
Honest to God, the people have one joke, and it's that one,
Yeah, right. I think
one
Cassie
single
had
joke.
something really interesting to say about that. She
Oh
said,
yeah.
"Okay, well then, let's fill you up with highly combustible fuel and throw you off a building.
Let's see how well you do.
See how that goes." Right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's
Wow.
the joke as well, where it's like every time you say there are only two genders, we add 60 more.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of the xenogenders. We'll just make up another five and then see how well you do with that now.
Yeah.
Um,
What did you say? Only two? Ta-da! Here's another 15. Yeah.
enjoy. I
What?
wonder if
Yeah.
you can get your head around these ones as well.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so this is really interesting because, like, I think for most people, I mean, sex and gender are kind
Mm,
of blurred together.
yeah.
And also, I think when you start talking about things like xenogender, it starts to almost pull apart or separate from the
Mm,
male, female, man, woman, masculine, feminine thing. It
yeah.
goes more deeper into identity and, like, even identifying with nature and
Yeah.
in different levels and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah, so like
Yeah.
having the binary of male female, and then you have like non-binary agender, you're bringing into a spectrum. As soon
Mm.
as you have xenogenders, you're bringing this into a 4D sphere, and you're
Ooh.
constantly expanding on this idea of gender, and it's revolutionary, it's important for a progress. It's not baby steps, it's kind of throwing in everything into the melting pot. And
Mm.
with a community that can keep up with that, that's great. But
Yeah.
some people do need the baby steps, and that's great for like human library stuff, being able to talk about it and then educate it.
Mm.
So I usually just go in as a trans guy without the wolf gender sort of thing.
Yeah.
When I'm kind of only around people that kind of understand that, when I do kind of go as that pronoun, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely a more casual thing on my side because I do focus a lot on my trans side rather than getting too bogged down in what xenogenders mean for me. For me, it's just a bit of fun and it makes me feel happy. And
Yeah.
obviously it's a lot of different things for a lot of different people.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, what you said about human library, I think most
Mm,
people would have an interesting time with the term transgender, let
exactly.
alone like if you start talking about
Exactly.
xenogender, they'll be like, wait, what? Rewind, hang on.
Literally. So it's just
Like,
like,
wait.
so here's trans, now here's xeno.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, totally. I can
Yeah,
just imagine the baffled faces and stuff like that.
absolutely.
So you said something about when we first talked,
Hmm.
you were discovering your sexuality first
Yeah.
and then your gender. How was that? What was that like?
Yeah, so I identified that I had crushes on girls, and it's kind of everyone, I guess. I'm
Mm.
bisexual,
Mm.
so I had crushes on everyone from a
Mhm.
very young age,
Yeah.
and it was never something that I thought was bad or different or anything. It was just there for me, and I think that a lot of people can identify with the fact of just like seeing it happen and just be like, oh, cool, that's something for future me to deal with.
Mm.
And you very much put it to the side, and I didn't hate that part of myself until I was more aware that it wasn't normal and it wasn't
Mm.
something that my family had ever experienced. So luckily I have a gay uncle,
Mm.
and because of him my family were more accepting. They kind of understood, they had a platform to go off of, and I'm endlessly grateful for that. So I knew that you could be gay from a very young age. So it wasn't awful, but it was, I think, different because back then, obviously, I was more of a female presenting person. I was
Mm.
a little girl. So back then, it was just like, oh, so men can love each other, but girls can't, maybe. And that was
Mm.
the point of contention. Yeah, so when I reached my teens, that's when it was just like, oh, this isn't normal, and I have to personally work through this. The thing
Mm.
is about like queer identities is that it's just such a lot of work. People don't really understand how much work it is to constantly be self-critical and self-analyzing and like looking at things in retrospect and hindsight,
Mm.
comparing that to how you feel now. A lot of people that don't have these identities don't realize that it's so much work to become the person you are, but also look back and realize that that's the person you always were.
Yeah, totally. And like even when you say normal, what is
Oh
normal
yeah,
anyway? It
there you
is an
go.
assumed thing that
Yeah.
kind of society or whoever has decided.
What?
And as
Yeah.
long as you fit in there and not rock the boat, then you're
Hmm.
kind of safe. But as soon as you step outside of that, then
Absolutely.
yeah. And I think it's well, in a way, I know it's got its challenges for sure. I'm not
Hmm.
denying that.
Yeah.
But I also feel like for my own sort of discovery of queerness, I kind of feel really grateful because
Yeah.
it's just made me reflect on things that other people might never even think about,
Absolutely.
you know?
Yeah. A lot of these people who don't have these identities never have to really look at themselves too deeply,
Mm.
and not saying that they can't, not saying that they don't,
They just
but
don't have to necessarily,
there's
right?
no given reason that they should. For us, it's almost a necessity.
Mm.
In order to be fine with ourselves, we have to look deeper and we have to be okay with ourselves on such a different level, which is a lot of work to get to. And with so I did mention that I've never been to a pride parade
Mm.
because I've never felt proud of myself.
Mm.
And outwardly, that is the case. Inwardly, I understand that I am who I am and that can hold power. But
Mm.
in my grand scheme of being in the public, I don't feel like I could walk the streets and not pretend, but like kind of emulate me being more confident in my identity, more confident in myself than I really
Mm.
am.
Mm.
Because I'm still very self-critical. I'm still
Mm.
very I have a low self-confidence, and it's come from being different.
Mm.
And even where I work now, I'm the only kind of queer person in the entire team, and we have like 15, 20 people. Uh,
Well, yeah.
so it does get difficult, but I always think to myself that despite being in these positions where I am the only one, I can be that person that I can be the trans person that someone's met and someone's understood that we're not some different person online, that we're not
Mm.
some kind of trend or whatever. I can be that person that, say, if a dad talks to me and understands that I'm trans, if their kid goes on to be trans, they at least have that platform, like I did with my uncle, to kind of base an opinion on and see that they were not so bad or not so different and crazy and whatever.
Mm. Yeah. Like just debunking a lot of assumptions, right?
Yeah, yeah, being the person that they can come to and talk to. Same with Human Library. I
Mm.
love talking to dads because I said to a couple of dads that I was talking to that they're kind of the untapped queer supporters.
Mm.
No one gives dads their due. Everyone enjoys their mother's support, but dads are always sort of in the background supporting from afar, and I think they deserve
Mm.
a lot more love than they get.
Oh. Yay, shout out to dads.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
all love a good dad.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, you talked about sort of pride and being not
Mm.
proud. I remember when I when I first started going to Pride as well.
Yeah.
I felt like an outsider. I didn't really feel like I fit in or I
Yeah.
belonged. And it's taken me a while to come round to that. I mean, not that that's a requirement
Mm.
necessarily, that's just how it went for me. But yeah, I found that interesting. So the more I embraced more of myself, the
Yeah.
more I was like, yay, these are my people, you know?
Exactly. Yeah,
So
and it's
yeah.
I can identify that because it's not an outward thing that I don't think no one should be proud. It's definitely an inner thing, and it's
Mm,
definitely, am I trans enough? Am I gay enough? Am I bisexual enough? I guess.
mm.
Even with me taking testosterone, me going to surgery consultations, I just don't feel like I could ever be enough, and that is a symptom of a lot of infighting, I think, within the queer community. And it's mostly online, but with COVID and working full time and being in a city where the queer community is not as obvious as you would hope it would be, it's definitely a symptom of being more self critical and having some of these comments and infighting things in your head a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of internalized judgment and
Yeah,
rejection and shame
big time.
really built in, and that comes from like society and patriarchal nonsense. But
Absolutely.
it's in there. It's in there for like
Yeah.
everyone, I would say.
And swinging back
Yeah.
to xenogenders, a lot
Hmm.
of infighting has happened because of it. It's always like trans people who don't experience the need for a xenogender. Some of them can look back at xenogenders and be like, "You're the reason why no one takes us seriously. So
Mm.
you're the reason why they all want to take the piss out of us, and they don't see us as
Yeah.
real genders and that sort of thing."
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So instead of
Yeah.
everyone being a community, it's just like, oh, you're taking the piss, you're not really in with the activism, not realizing that
Hmm.
these are radical things that are happening.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
you're making a mockery of the whole
Literally.
gender thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Instead of
Wow.
seeing it for what it is, which is
Mm.
very powerful and very
Yeah.
different.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you just mentioned testosterone,
Oh yeah.
which we briefly talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a bit more about your journey in that, because I found it quite fascinating. And even when you were just talking about your obviously being a little girl, it's
Mm.
just sound it's kind of quite surreal because your voice is very is your voice is quite deep, you know.
Thank you.
So it's really interesting to think that that is that is a part of your history.
Honest to God, yeah.
So
So I never get tired of getting told my voice is deep because it's like one of the top
euphoric.
three things
Yeah.
I needed out of testosterone. So,
Yeah.
so my top three were like, I want a deep voice, I want facial hair, which is it's
Hmm.
coming, and I
Yeah.
wanted to be tall, but I'm 5'2" and struggling.
Oh.
but but
Oh, that's so great.
keep
Yeah.
short friends, and that's all you need.
Very strategic.
I
I
have
like
a
it.
4'11" friend, and it makes me feel powerful. That's all I need.
That's funny.
um,
Oh my
so
goodness. Yeah. So
I
so how
st-
long have you been on tea? Yeah,
so
first of
yeah,
all.
I started in November of 2019. Before then, I was on the NHS waiting list 2 times. Both times I got kicked off. First time is because my GP didn't send me the paperwork. So after a year of believing I was on the list, I got a very like all the text was in red, and it said that you've been
Oh.
kicked off because you haven't done your paperwork in time.
Ah, what?
Yeah, which was kind of heartbreaking. And then
Mm.
the second time I went to get referred again, and after I literally followed up with phone calls like, make sure that you have referred me because I'm not doing this again.
Mm.
And then coming back a year later, I was like, oh, what's the progress on the waiting list, you know? And they looked at my record, and I'd never been referred to them in the first place.
Ah.
So that was another year wasted.
Mm.
So after those two instances, I was like, I just need to get it done. I don't care how much it costs. So I went to I think the only private caregiver for trans people right now is Gender GP.
Mhm.
The UK government is trying its best to oust it, but it's still clinging on.
Mm.
Shout out to Gender GP. They will get you on testosterone or whatever you need in about 3 months. However, it is
Mm.
very expensive. So, like, I think the initial, just a Skype call, I think, just to talk things through, is 70 quid by itself. Being a student back then, it was not great for me, but luckily I could afford it because I was working alongside my master's degree. So £70 for the initial, and then you have to pay for the prescriptions, and they like to give you therapy sessions that you have to pay for as well every kind of 3 months, which is
Mm-hmm.
another £60. So originally I was on gel,
Mm-hmm.
so testo gel. You use it, well, you kind of rub it on your shoulders after you have a shower every day. So then you have to kind of sit with your shirt off for about 5 minutes as it sinks in, which is very irritating. Um, but it was £40 a pop plus shipping, because they send you a prescription and you get it from a private chemist, so one that's online. You can get shared care, which is you go into your GP, you kind of ask, these are the people that's going to be sorting things out. I just need you to get me blood tests and give me a
Mm-hmm.
prescription from what they advise.
Yeah.
When I went into my GP, they said no, that's not something that they could do.
Mm.
So I'm paying the full blown private package at the moment, which is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd be spending about 200-ish pounds a month to stay
Wow.
on testosterone, which yeah,
That's a
it's a
lot.
lot.
Mm.
Yeah. So and then luckily after a while of things developing and being in a good place with it, I asked to be put on injections. So I did my latest injection a couple of days ago, and it's tough. I'm not bad with needles at all, so I've watched myself be tattooed, I've watched myself get jabs, everything. But as soon as you have to do it yourself, that's
Mm.
when my mental block kicks in. It's like trying to tickle yourself. It's hard to do, and you don't really want to do it, and it feels weird. It's like having to hurt yourself with a huge needle that has to go all the way inside your legs.
Good grief. That seems like surreal to me that you have to
Mhm.
do that yourself. It's
Yes.
yeah.
So I know with the NHS you maybe be able to go into a surgery and get it done, like a nurse
Mm.
would do it for you. However, I have asked my surgery and they have said no, because it's not something that they've given me as a
Mm.
prescription,
Yeah.
so they won't be liable, I guess. So
Yeah.
yeah, having to do it myself is my only option, because even my girlfriend's afraid of needles. So
Yeah.
I have to be the man of the house and do it myself. But yeah,
Uh,
it can be difficult. But I've got a lot of tips from people who do it themselves, and it's like putting on really loud, energetic music to get yourself pumped up,
mhm.
and thinking about it. Like one of them said to inject myself and imagine it's like a werewolf serum. So as soon
Yeah.
as I have it in my bloodstream, I become a werewolf or something, which is the
I
fantasy.
like it. Yeah.
I
Does
would
it
love that.
work?
Oh man, I wish it would. I wish it would. Aren't you tired of me being nice? Don't you just want to go ape shit and be a werewolf? um,
That's
yeah.
funny. Yeah.
So I've done 3 injections. I have to do one every 3 weeks now.
3 weeks. That's interesting. So would you
Yeah.
say for that, obviously it's different when you use the gel, I guess, because it's
Hmm.
more like evenly dosed, I guess. So does it
Yeah.
wear off? Do you have like a cycle of sorts? How does that work?
So I don't think I've been on it long enough to notice, but it is, as soon as I do it, I can see like more changes happening, if that makes sense. So
Ah.
where I am now, the kind of most changes is I'm getting more body hair.
Uh-huh.
So my dad is a gorilla, and so luckily I have those genes as well, apparently.
Mm.
So
Makes sense. Yeah.
my arms have just become a forest, my legs are a jungle. Um, right now it's coming to my feet, which I am not a fan of.
Yeah.
Um, but all of this before I get like a hint of facial hair. So I think
It's
that's the next
catching up.
step. Yeah,
Yeah, so
it
the face
has
is
to be.
catching up. Yeah.
I think I'm getting sideburns.
Yeah.
So I got kind of bright blue hair, and I'm hopefully going to get like a deep black beard. So I'm not sure how that's going to look, or whether I have to give up the blue hair.
Mm.
But yeah, like I get like very scattered occasional hairs on my cheeks. So
Mm.
it's coming. I'm hopeful.
Yeah. Does that take a good while then for that to really establish?
Yeah, I think it's one of the last things that happens, really, is
Really?
getting decent facial hair. And I know someone who's been on T for 3 years, and they barely look like they've had a hint of it. So it
Mm.
really is subjective. I
Yeah.
think you can only really tell that I'm on it because my voice dropped, and
Mm.
I have a lot more like arm hair and stuff.
Mhm.
Luckily, my voice dropped maybe 3 months in, and I think it's continuing to drop. So who
Yeah.
knows where I'll go.
Yeah.
And luckily, with the lockdown, the only good thing about the lockdown was that no one had to hear my voice crack every sentence.
Wow.
I went full on Simpsons teenage boy. It was horrific.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, luckily it's not like that anymore.
Mm. Mm.
You still get it occasionally. Always
Wow.
embarrassing.
Oh.
And it was when I say people that I was talking to who's done it themselves, it's I've made a lot of friends in the furry community, and
Mm-hmm.
so many of them are trans,
Mm-hmm.
so many of them are queer as well. So as a useful segue, alongside with my transition, I've been getting more and more into that side of the community, and it's kind of really kind of saved my skin because I get so much more insight into transitioning as a whole. So I run a Discord server where I have quite a few people in there who are trans and going through the same or similar journey as I am.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, being able to ask them for help, being able to ask them for tips, and seeing if I'm doing the right thing, that sort of thing,
Mm.
endlessly helpful. So
Yeah, I bet.
always get yourself a support system like that.
Definitely. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, we've had another furry on the podcast, Charlie Orris,
Yeah.
and I remember asking at the time. I don't even know if I asked him actually, but
Mm.
I think I spoke to you about like, oh, is it the cosplay kind or is
Oh
it the
yeah.
kinky type? You
Yeah.
know, and for me, that's kind of like that's the two sides of furry. But then you
Yeah.
said there's a lot more to it, so I found that
Yeah.
really interesting. So yeah,
Yeah.
what is it about all that that appeals to you?
Yeah. So I've kind of always sort of hovered. So a lot of my teenage years were spent making characters that happened to be wolves, making characters that reflected myself in certain areas and that sort of thing. And it wasn't until 2018, maybe 2019, that I just decided to go full throttle into this community. So all you really see online about the furry community is they're sexual deviants who are scary and cringy and that sort of thing. While there is like unarguably a sexual side to stuff, so there
Hmm.
are people who have fursuits specifically for sex.
Hmm.
There are people, so a lot of it can be not safe for work artwork. I know I have a couple of pieces of my character. It's ingrained to be a very, and it's not sexual, but it's an open sort of thing.
Hmm.
And a lot of people use the furry community to explore themselves, whereas
Hmm.
that sexuality or sexual libido, what they're into, might be kink wise. Because even I have with my sexuality, I've kind of fluctuated between am I gay, am I bisexual, am I pansexual? What does that mean to me?
Hmm.
And I could talk to all these sorts of people as well as be kind of enveloped in a community that's continuously questioning, continuously progressing in that sort of thing. And a lot of the furry community is queer. I would say a good 90% of the people I follow and keep up with are queer in one particular way. Maybe like 99%, to be honest.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's heavily queer and it's heavily leftist as well. So I'm very outspoken on my leftist kind of ideals, and that is very much reflected in the community. So with the two sides, there's deeper stuff that kind of connect the both. So with the cosplay and the not safe for work, you have artists behind it all. You have people that are creating the fursuits. You have people who are drawing the not safe for work art. People who so the kind of basis of the furry community is that you have a persona, and it's you as an anthropomorphic animal, or it could be a feral sort of four-legged on the ground animal, but usually it's like two-legged, standing up, that sort of thing. So sometimes they can have both forms. Mine do.
Yeah.
So my main guy is called Crook, and the name came as a placeholder, but it just stuck. Crook and
Yeah.
stuck. There you go. That's the one I was looking for.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was looking when
Ah.
before I dived in, I was looking at kind of personas as a whole, and I was thinking that everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people are very like, this is my happy Fazona who is very cute and cuddly and whatever. I wanted to make a villain. I wanted to
Mhm.
make someone who is toothy, who is a little bit evil, and I still call him now. I still call him the bastard man. He's I would say edgy, but I think there are a couple of sides. There's the cute and cuddly, and there's the edgy people like me who just
Mm,
want to see teeth and spikes and that
mm,
sort of thing.
yeah.
But he is a grey wolf crossed with a striped hyena,
Right.
and he kind of lives in the criminal underworld. Uh, and yeah, I love him very much. I have a partial of him, so you can get a full suit, which is the full fursuits that you usually see,
Hmm.
or you can get a partial fursuit, which is usually the head and the paws and maybe a tail, and
Hmm.
so that's you can wear like your normal clothes with those. Less hot, especially when you're in America. These people are like getting heat stroke with
Oh,
wearing
wow.
all this stuff in the middle of summer.
I'll bet.
The dedication, I swear. People
Yeah.
actually make like props, so like plushies with fans in them, so at least you can hold something that looks good but it's like cooling you at the same time.
What a great idea.
Literally, it's so inventive. Some of them could be like ice creams and that sort of thing. Very cute. So I was working with someone called Grinning Theory, and that's the person who made my suit. So
Hmm.
I was saving up for one because I think part of the furry community is that you always want to get more. You always want to get more art. You always want to get a full suit or a partial. I went up for a partial because a full suit, like £3,000 upwards, I'd say.
Wow.
Mine was about 1,000, maybe a bit over.
Hmm.
And he has the head, the paws, and the tail.
Hmm.
And working with an artist so closely to put who you want to be in your mind's eye, which is what a persona is, I guess,
Mm.
into reality in their style, their craftsmanship. As soon as I saw them, they actually like asked if I was looking for them, and he was like, "I could do it if you like. Do you like my style?" I fell in love immediately.
Mm.
Very edgy style. Absolutely go check them out on Instagram, Grinning Theory, and just fell in love immediately. And the thing with the furry community as well is that with a lot of it being artistry, a lot of the community knows that we want to give artists like a living wage. So a lot of the community will tell people to raise their prices if they're too low, and you never
Mm.
really see that elsewhere. We look after our artists. It's like ingrained into the fabric of the community as artistry.
Mm.
So if you don't look after your artists, who's there to really uphold the community as a whole? So I've started doing some commissions. I have a little Etsy shop that I've started, but before then I was like deep into doing commissions. I'm not great at art, but I it definitely helped me progress in my skills to be surrounded by artists and to be encouraged onwards by people buying it and people wanting to invest in it,
Mm.
which is fantastic. And you don't get that anywhere else, I don't think.
Yeah, it sounds like a great sort of journey of, creative expression, I suppose.
Absolutely. Super
Yeah,
creative. And I
amazing.
think people look at the furry community as just being the deviants, as I said, and not really understanding that there is so much depth. And the thing about furry stays weird because it's a community that has managed to dodge capitalism in a lot of ways because of the not safe for work nature, because that it's still seen as weird and creepy or whatever. We're
Mm.
dodging commercialization. We're dodging. Just imagine Amazon selling fursuits,
Oh, don't even.
right? So like you could get a fursuit off Amazon for like £600 or something, but that takes away the entire heart of someone working on that for you, and someone
Mm.
putting their kind of heart and soul into bringing you alive. Through there's so much personalization. There's so much. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like a very custom,
yeah. Oh,
thing. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it also, I think, summarizes some of the problems of, companies like Amazon, to be
Yeah.
fair, like undercutting prices. It's like someone's going to
Exactly.
pay for it. It might not be you, but
Yeah.
someone is paying somewhere,
The
you
thing
know?
is that there are like companies, like shady companies, say in China, that are taking pictures of people's actual fursuits and putting them up for sale, and then say people who don't understand that it's not something that you could kind of buy off a Chinese website, they're getting these horrific kind of rugs, basically,
Oh,
that they're
yeah.
then like paying super amounts of money for, and just not
Wow.
getting the product that they saw on the image. And it's kind of become a little bit of a, not a crisis, but similar,
Mm.
where people are having to watermark their own photos so companies like that can't scam people out of their money.
Mm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really sad.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, and with the artists, usually you see like the joke of like, oh, if you actually want to make money as an artist, why don't you just like do furry porn or something? Not
Mm,
realizing that the joke exists because we look after our artists so heavily, and it kind of makes me a little bit mad that people are just like, oh yeah, just go and exploit this community over there that actually pays their artists decently.
mhm, mhm.
You're
Yeah.
welcome to start furry art. It's difficult and there is a market and it's competitive, but it's a good community, and I implore everyone to kind of do their research and even make a little persona themselves because it's always fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's always the image of like, what animal would you be?
I
And
think I'd be a
that's the start.
cat.
Perfect. Now you
Yeah.
have a persona and it's a cat.
Yay!
There's your assigned persona. What color would your cat be?
Grey,
Perfect. What color eyes would it have?
blue.
Perfect. Would it have funky hair?
Um, that's a good question. It would have long, wavy red hair,
Ooh, I love that.
burgundy, like dark red.
Ooh, there you
Ooh,
go.
tapping into something
You have
now.
just made your own persona.
Oh my goodness, that's not what I was expecting, but I like it. I
Love
like it.
it. I'd love it. Yeah, you
Yeah.
should you should get someone to draw it. That'd be great.
Oh, totally. Artists out there, if you feel so inclined. No, no, no. We want to pay them a living wage. No, no,
Uh,
no. We don't. We don't want them to work for free. No, we do not.
Honestly, requests are a thing. If people want to draw, they'll draw, and
Cool.
yeah,
Well, yeah,
it's
totally.
good. So it's art is a luxury item that people want to pay for, but like a lot of
Mm.
people will just like happily do a doodle or happily do like a sketch or something if you're
I
nice
would
to
be
them.
delighted to accept a doodle.
There you
Yes.
go.
Yeah.
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 So the thing with like being friends with other furry artists is that you just kind of get an influx of art all the time because you're just like, I drew you, and you're like, no, don't draw me. I'm going to draw you.
Oh, I love
And
that. That's
yeah,
really cool.
there's a kind of a website as well called Artfight where you can just do that. So there's two
Ah,
teams, and you join a team, and then you get to draw the other team, people in the other team
how
for free,
cool. Yeah.
and you kind of get points by fighting each other with art. It was great. That kind of emulates
Amazing.
the community as a whole, I think.
How lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the thing is sort of art should be more of a thing generally,
Mm,
because it's just so important for us to express ourselves creatively, I
absolutely.
feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever that looks like,
Yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with the personas, you can explore a lot of your own identity with them. So, like,
Mm.
getting drawn as like not safe for work art, it can help you work through feelings of your own sexuality. It can seeing someone else as you, and then kind of putting them in situations where you're just like, oh, okay, that kind of says something about me, I think. But yeah, if you ever want to explore parts of yourself, make a funny little animal that you can throw things at.
Love it.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah,
Yeah, it sounds very therapeutic actually. Yeah. Very,
absolutely.
very much a journey of discovery. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and especially gender. Like I have friends who have personas that are not the same gender as them.
Mm.
Like so, shout out to Jess. I know she'll be listening to this afterwards. Jess has a character that is called Beans, and they're non-binary and go by they them, whereas Jess goes by she her.
Mm.
And through Beans, she can work through feelings of gender identity, but also like feelings in the past and like all
Mm.
that sort of thing. And yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
therapeutic.
Awesome. I think that's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but with the commercialization of capitalism, it is like a very weird community, and that's a lot of xenogenders come from that sort of community as well, because with wolfgender that kind of reflects my whole thing. I have a wolf persona. I'm wolfgender. It's just kind of a lot of joy for me. We
Mhm.
are still very self-policing, so we don't allow people who are predators or have kind of illegal things that they like to
Mm.
express. That's very much not in our community, and we will oust them. And it's sometimes you do get them, and it's kind of like a big thing, and it's quite upsetting if it happens to be like quite a high profile person. But it is, you do understand that people can be in any sort of community. You can have everyone in everywhere. So
Mm.
it's not a reflection on us.
Totally.
We just have to happen to be very welcoming. So we're going to get those sorts of people anyway. It's just how we deal with that afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of self-policing, and it's effective. And people have to leave our community because they're not people we want in it. With how open and welcoming we are, we have standards, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I would assume so.
Yeah,
Totally.
I think it's been quite the furry community is kind of collected onto Twitter, I believe. There's always been websites that have tried to be the furry website, but they've kind of always fallen to not infighting, but people wanting to take them in different directions, not getting the audience that they wanted, people not wanting to leave Twitter because they've been so set up there. It's an ever evolving community, and if you ever have curiosity in it, then just go search on Twitter. You'll see the incredible art and the incredible work people do.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Is there anything you'd like to add that we haven't talked about yet?
Man, just I think because I listened to Will's episode that you did quite early on,
Yeah.
and they were saying that, and I also say this during human library myself, that journeys and gender journeys are for everyone. If you want to be self-critical, if you want to take a deep dive into your own psyche and how you imagine yourself in your own brain and how you think you present to other people, do it. Go for it. Look up everything on the internet that you need to and kind of look inward to yourself because, as I say in the human library, even if you are not trans, even if you don't come out with a different gender identity, you will come out knowing yourself deeper. You'll come out knowing yourself a
That is
lot
so
more.
true. Yeah, yeah, and just because you question your gender doesn't mean it's going to turn you trans.
Exactly.
Like people are like, no, that's
Yeah.
not a thing.
And if you're scared of what you might find, you shouldn't be, because there is a whole community and endless communities for whatever you find that will support you and will be there for you. And so a lot of people like to call the UK Turf Island.
I had not heard that one.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
So yeah, usually there'll be like
Oh.
a quote tweet of like a headline from the BBC or something like, next up from Turf Island.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately, our situation is not as happy as we would like it to be, especially in the UK. But the revolution is always there. The people who you want to be with, you can rely on them, and we'll always be here. Yeah, Turf Island can't get us down too much.
That's right. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Well, shout out to everyone who is currently fighting against our policies and people like J.K. Rowling in the media doing your best.
Yep. Yeah. Supporting each other through all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's all we can do at the moment.
Totally. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That was so interesting. I had never heard of xenogender, and now I have a better idea of what that is, or at least for you,
Yeah,
So
yeah. Absolutely. Everyone go
Yeah.
and Google it. Go have fun with your gender.
Go have fun with your gender. That should be on a t-shirt.
Hell yeah.
I love it.
That should be on the xenogender flag.
That's it. Make it.
I will. Let's do it.
Do it.
So long as you make your little furry.
Oh yeah, I'll have to put a shout out there for for my fursona. Yeah,
love that.
Fursona doodle required. Requested, not required.
There you go.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You can find out more details on the website at 50shadesofgender.com/Grayson, where you can also read the transcript. And you can find Grayson on bastard.inc, on Twitter at the Wolfjaw, on Etsy, search for the Wolfjaw, and there is a link to the GoFundMe page for his top surgery on the website. Thank you for listening to the 50 Shades of Gender podcast. You can find us online at 50shadesofgender.com, on social media, and on YouTube. Again, if you'd like to support us, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/50 Shades of Gender or buy us a coffee. Links are on the website. We hope you will listen again. Until then, stay curious and open-minded. Yeah, I guess that's a wrap. How was that for you?
That was really fun.
Yay!
It's really been a pleasure talking to you.
It was so much fun. I love it. I cannot believe I came out of this with a fursona. I I'm like, what? Oh,
Honest
this
to
is
God,
brilliant.
I've given so many people Zonas. Like
Like,
in passing, I once told a friend of mine, like, "Oh, you really remind me of a red panda." And then a few years later, like literally maybe 3 years later, I got a Twitter DM like, "I'm still thinking about it. I am a red panda."
oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, it's raining outside.
Yeah, it was
uh,
raining here just now. I don't know if you heard it, but it was
oh,
coming down like
you've given it to me.
buckets. Just passing it on.
Thank you so much.
You're
Um,
welcome. I'm sure the garden would love it.
oh yeah. Well, I wish I had a garden. I have a pub garden behind me,
Oh,
so
right.
I'm sure that'll love it.
Yeah. If
Um,
there's no one in there. Yeah.